Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country, and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast. I appreciate you tuning in. This is the 19th day of February, 2021, and we're coming to you live from Kalispell, the snowy Kalispell, Montana, up here in the northwest part of the country. We are so delighted that you joined us. If everything's working properly, we should be simulcasting on multiple networks, a couple of Facebook pages, a couple of YouTube pages, Periscope, LinkedIn, and Blog Talk Radio and Podbean. We're on all those networks to bring the truth to you, because we're being censored heavily these days, as you know, and we just have to continue to keep up the fight. And speaking of keeping up the fight, we have a returning guest today, Connie Reguli, who is an attorney in Tennessee. And she is, that fights, I think, is her middle name, because she's been fighting for a long time, fighting for children, fighting against the corrupt criminal kidnapping cabal, the organization, the organized crime ring known as Child Protective Services. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just tune on over to criticaldisclosure.com and check out what's going on there. And you will see that what I just said is absolutely spot on, sadly. But Connie is, as I stated, has been a guest here before. We're going to bring her on right now. We're so delighted that she took time off her busy schedule, protecting families and children, to come on the show today. Let me take her off of mute and welcome her to the show properly. Connie, thanks so much for being here today. It's always great to see you.
No, thank you, Jim, for having me back. I really appreciate what you do and the platform that you give for this issue, because it is so hard to get this issue out before the public. And those who've been affected know what it's about. And, you know, as we sit here today, there are 687,000 kids in the foster care system. And so it's a social engineering project that doesn't work. We have a 50-year experience with it. The agency is all funded. It's a perverse financial system. So I'm just so happy that you have a platform for exposing it.
Well, you know, the work that I do here is I'm, you know, just a radio guy that brings parents on, which I know is important, but you're out there, you know, on the front lines battling these scoundrels on a regular basis. And, you know, it's what's the hardest thing, I tell you what, Connie, let me just start from the beginning here. The hardest thing they named it so masterfully, the Child Protective Services, because it immediately disarms people. They go, they're there to protect kids. What are you talking about, kidnapping and trafficking? Come on. I mean, no, really, they created that name, and immediately people think, you know, you're off your rocker, because they're there to protect children. When I'm here to tell you, can you please verify Child Protective Services should probably be named Child Procurement Services, because that would probably much more aptly describe what they do. Do you care to comment on that?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, and it's even worse. And here in Tennessee, we call it the Department of Children Services, right? And so, I mean, we actually have parents who get caught up in the system because they make a phone call because, you know, perhaps they have a child with a disability or, you know, having problems with medical issues. And I've had cases come to me where they're like, I reached out to DCS because it says services, you know, and I've complained about this. And, you know, I'll tell you, I've made several public statements in different forums, legislatively and different committee meetings. And I always say, you know, there's an inherent conflict of interest in this agency that just makes it impossible to exist the way it does, because They are on one hand a prosecuting agency, and on the other hand supposed to be providing services and reunification. So it's an agency that has to implode on itself, because they become this overzealot child procurement agency, and worse, for profit. So it is a profit making agency. There's no question about it.
Well, even the most asleep person, or a person that is not really a deep thinker, let's put it that way, can probably figure out that there's going to be problems when they get compensated only after they foster children out and separate them from the families and put them in to the system where, I don't know, how many, 80% of the children that are, or the people that end up in trafficking, being human trafficked, were once in the foster care system. I mean, I've heard numbers as high as 88%. Let's just say 80%. I mean, that's a national catastrophe that no one's addressing, Connie, except people like you and I and other couple, patriots out there that are trying to make things right.
Well, and it's really sad to say, because I mean, I've gone to Washington, D.C., I've gone to several state capitals, I've had forums in different states, and I stood in front of Senator Marsha Blackburn, at her breakfast in Washington, D.C., and she has seen my face several times, and I've talked about child welfare reform several times. And even then, and this was, 2 years ago now, she said, well, they got a report from NCMEC, which is the National Institute for Missing and Exploited Children. And in that national report, it put in there that like 70% of the children that were missing or were trafficked had been in the foster care system. And I told her, I said, that it's not just that. I mean, this is a social experiment that doesn't work. If you've been in the foster care program, you're more likely to be a drug addict, not go to college, have a child out of wedlock, not have a job, be homeless, be in prison. I mean, we know the stats. You're 12 times more likely to end up in prison if you've been a child in the foster care system.
Yeah, I think the numbers are close to 50% of them that come out of there. And here's the thing. They just dump them on the street. Oh, okay, well, we can't charge for you anymore. You're no longer valuable to us, so have a good life. And these, I mean, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Hold on. You're the highest funded agency in any state. The DPHHS or Child Protective Services, whatever you want to call them, Health and Human Services, they are, and I would, maybe not every single state, but the majority of states, they're the number one funded agency. More money goes to that agency than any other. Yet they can't provide some sort of an aftercare program for these children that have been ripped out of good homes sometimes, put into situations where they're trafficked or abused, then thrown out on the street. This is in America, Connie. This is going on in America.
Well, and I want to talk about this age out issue here for just a minute, because here is something, that maybe you have not even quite caught on to yet. So these children go into foster care, and especially when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, the agency actually convinces children to stay in foster care rather than return to their home with this carrot. They say, if you age out of foster care, you're going to get free college tuition, you're going to get free medical benefits until you turn 26, and you're going to get a stipend of about $450 a month. So they start paying these kids directly. And I know it's true, because I've pulled the state of Tennessee checkbook and I've seen these checks written to these children. So they entice. Now, what have we done? We have actually totally broken the genealogy of these children so that they no longer have family. And I've been through the juvenile court system before, and I have worked on these cases. And I said, you know what, 10 years from now, you're going to have this child's file shredded and you're not even going to remember his name. But when this child is 26, 27, 28 years old, and they don't have an aunt or uncle or mother or dad to call when they're having their first baby, getting their first job, trying to manage their first car, I said, you have totally broken them for the rest of their life.
Well, indeed. And, in California, I don't know who the, lame brain there in California, council person, whoever it was, introduced a bill to increase the age of in CPS to 26, like just as a standard, not just let's make you an offer. Let's just have a blanket. You're here to 26. I mean, if it's not so, I mean, how obvious is it? They're just using these children as ATMs. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean,
Sadly.
yeah, it is, and it's not getting any better. I think, sadly, I think now it's getting even worse. And Connie, I believe that there's a lot of different. Let's put it this way: there's a lot of different areas in our country right now where people are waking up. They're realizing that there's a fraud. There's a big con, right? We see now the voting. We can tell now the voting probably hasn't been fair in decades. I mean, who knows how long now, right? So people are starting to realize that, and there's sort of awakening to some of these things. What's it going to take to get people to awaken to the fact that CPS is just destroying families? And like you just stated so aptly, they're just destroying they're undermining the whole fabric of our country, which is the family unit. They're destroying it. Yeah. One family at a time in every single state. And it's going on right now as we're having this conversation. CPS is somewhere illegally taking someone's child without due process. I can guarantee you.
Oh, I guarantee it too. And let me just, for some of the listeners, put some real dollar figures on it. And I'm just going to take the state of Tennessee because I'm always digging into the Tennessee checkbook. So the state of Tennessee, the budget for the Department of Children's Services is $680 million a year. We know that $304 million a year comes from the federal government. To get that money from the federal government, most of it comes through Title IV-E, which means that they have to take children, put them in foster care to get their money. It is a dollar for dollar match. In other words, the state has to match every dollar from the federal government. It is a use it or lose it scheme. So if they don't use that money, they're going to lose it for the next year. And it is never subject to sequester. So it is absolutely an out of control funding scheme. And it's these foster care agencies, and it's not just foster care. It is basically the whole entire child welfare system is being privatized. For instance, in Tennessee, Youth Villages has an $85 million a year contract, for-profit agency. Omni, $65 million a year. Camelot, $43 million a year. And these agencies these private contractors are huge. And let me tell you what keeps blocking us. There's a great website called opensecrets.org, and you can go there and you can look for lobbyists, and you can write in foster care. There are 140 registered lobbyists for-profit foster care in Washington, D.C., knocking on the doors of our congressmen and senators to keep the money flowing. What we must do is educate, educate, educate. And I keep throwing it out there. One of the things I'm trying to ask for in the state of Tennessee this year is a family advocate for these cases so that we can get somebody in from the outside and manage these cases that don't have the deep pockets of the state funding. So it's totally twisted, perverted funding from day one. It is the Title IV-E money is $9 billion. So you double that because the states have to match it. That's $18 billion. And that does not cover all the other money that comes in for extra services, programs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. So it is a very perverse funding scheme, and we have to educate, educate, educate.
Well, I've had Martin Lynch on my show numerous times. I'm not sure if you know Marty. He's out there, I believe, in Arizona. But he's putting forth some legislation. He's actually drawn up some legislation here from Montana, believe it or not, where he has stated that if we could somehow maneuver these cases into jury trials, that there would not be nearly as many of these children being snatched from their parents. Because if they were, because here's the thing, Connie. A lot of these parents have their children taken, and then they never get charged with like a follow-up crime. They don't get charged with anything. They don't. It's like, wait a minute. I thought in this country I can only be fined or charged, or have levies put on me, or taxes, or not taxes, but basically fines put on me and pay recompense if I've committed a crime or if there's a victim. I mean, they actually take these people's children, never charge them with the crime. Like, what's the crime? Well, you're neglectful. Okay, so what's the crime? Where's my due process? All that's out the window. I mean, it's on its face. I think it's criminal in my view.
Well, and I want to say, I'm so grateful I have other people out there. We have other people out there lobbying for bills. However, I'm just going to lay this right out there. Asking for jury trials is an assumption that the court system is just. Okay, that's an assumption that the court system is just, and it is not. I have worked in that dirty system for 26 years. It is not a system that you want to put your family in. And so I want to go ahead and I want to talk about what they have done to me and what I have seen in the system. So go ahead.
I said, please do, go right ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I came into law late in life. My family was in the restaurant business. We had a very successful restaurant in Tennessee for many years. I just decided to venture out because we had a lot of family members working there, and I went into the area of law. And so I was in my 40s before I even got out. I went into the prosecutor's office. I was prosecuting domestic violence and child abuse. I then went into private practice. And it wasn't long before I was in private practice that I learned that there were a lot of problems with the system. There's a lot of prejudice, a lot of bias, a lot of things happen before you even get to a jury trial. A lot of discovery is shielded. And I started calling it out. And I started really digging my heels in about 2007 when I had a judge in Middle Tennessee here. I saw him in the courtroom calling female attorneys girls. He called me a jerk in a courtroom when I was asking for some discovery issues from a client. And that was Robert E. Lee Davies in Williamson County. And I dug my heels in against him, and he became on the attack with me ever since. I started at the state legislature in 2000. I think in 2009 was my first appearance there because I had seen two families totally destroyed just because of the manipulation of the court system. And so I went with those two moms to the state legislature, and we gave public hearings. Well, this was before, Twitter and Facebook and everything else, but those public hearings were live streamed. And oh my gosh, it was not 24 hours later that I started catching retribution from that. And this judge, Robert E. Lee Davies, wrote a letter basically to the Board of Professional Responsibility, saying in his letter that all the judges in the county thought I was a terrible lawyer, which I knew is not true, but it was just crazy. So they started attacking me then. And so the first round of attacks direct attacks came in 2010. And they brought up 9 different charges against me through the licensing board. And there was, and this Judge Davies, so I challenged an order of his. I sent a letter. I didn't even do it to him personally. I sent a letter to another attorney, and I said, I'm very concerned about the order that he's put down, and I think it's unconstitutional because there was a violation of due process. And so the next court appearance that we go to, Judge Davies is in the courtroom, and the other attorney, Tim Street, holds that letter up in the air, and he says, Judge, she says your orders are unconstitutional, and so therefore they would be void. And I'm like, just have a hearing, it was so ridiculous from that onset. And so the Judge Davies, decided to hold me in contempt of court. He had a trial, and the contempt was that I had advised my client to violate a court order, which was not true. So he held this hearing, and he didn't even call my client to ask him if I'd advised him to violate a court order. And he held me in contempt of court and sentenced me to 10 days. They handcuffed me and took me down to the holding cell. And there were other attorneys in the courtroom who were coming up and feeling really bad for me. And it's like, what can we do for you, Connie? It was just so ridiculous. So I go to the holding cell, and there's these other women down there, and I just start chatting with them and tell them what's going on. So I took that to the Court of Appeals. And in the meantime, that's when I started going to the state legislature. And then I went back and I told them about the retaliation that I had suffered for being public. And so I take the whole case to the Court of Appeals, and there was absolutely no evidence in the record that I had advised a client to disobey a court order. However, in my brief, I said that Judge Davies had retaliated against me and that he had purposely, intentionally taken this contempt proceeding when he was present in the courtroom and never even asked my client whether or not I had asked him to do that. And so they reversed the contempt. However, they said that I should be sanctioned because I used the word retaliate, and I said the judge had lied in a court order, and he had lied in a court order. However, as an attorney, I cannot say that a judge has lied. Okay, this is way back now, that we're talking like 2010 at this point. And so the first time they came after me to try to sanction me, they had like 9 different charges. A lot of them were juvenile court things. The juvenile courts are run so horrible. There's no due process. There's no notice to people. And so the panel had to dismiss everything except where they say, well, the Court of Appeals sanctioned you for saying a judge lied, so we're going to have to sanction you. So that was a public censure. All right. I'm like, whatever. So I just kept trucking along. I helped some other attorneys who were dealing with the board. I represented them in their cases because they were all retaliation. And so then they came after me again, a second time. And in the meantime, I had cancer. And when the board found out I had cancer, they sent me a letter and said that I should retire my law license because I had a serious illness. Okay. Now they did that on purpose because once you retire your law license, you have to beg for permission to get your law license back. And so I wrote them a nasty letter and I said, well, you do know, of course, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you cannot sanction me for having cancer. So then they file another complaint against me. And this time, there was, half of it they dismissed before they even got there. And then I had one client that I had a contract dispute with, and which should have been a civil case because we should have been able to take that contract dispute to civil court. But instead they used it as a sanction, and they said I had to pay him back some money, which I did, which was fine. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to put you on probation. I was like, whatever. Okay. So they put me on probation. Within 3 months, they tried to violate that probation. And of course they were unsuccessful in doing that. So I got through all of that. And so we're trucking along again. I'm continuing to be proactive. I'm continuing to be an advocate. I'm continuing to push for new laws, but they are trying to basically attack my credibility totally. Even though I have over 40 cases that I've taken to the Court of Appeals, I have filed several federal lawsuits to try to help define our rights as citizens, such as due process rights, such as Fourth Amendment rights for parents, because I had the first case back in 2007, which they also knew about this, and they were really angry about this because they don't like attorneys that file civil rights cases. So back in 2007, I had clients who were out in Hickman County, and the police and the social workers had gone into their homes when they had been told to stay outside. They had bombarded into their homes, and I took it to federal court. And we got an opinion out of the Sixth Circuit Court that says the Fourth Amendment applies to social workers. It was the first time in the Sixth Circuit that we finally got a law that says the Fourth Amendment applies to social workers. If you say you can't come in, they can't come in, right? And so I had already established some precedent in the Sixth Circuit. So we're trucking along. I bring up another case about a child who was assaulted. A 14-year-old child put in solitary confinement in the Williamson County juvenile court system under Judge Sharon Guffey, and she held him in solitary confinement for 51 days. He was assaulted in solitary confinement. I later found out that that they had destroyed evidence, which I did not know at the time. And this family came to me after the fact. And so I said, well, we'll take a civil lawsuit. So we filed a civil lawsuit. We now have another precedent out of Sixth Circuit, which says that you cannot put a child in solitary confinement. It is cruel and unusual punishment. And that was not even the law.
That wasn't even the law? The law was,
No.
Come on. For real? A child in solitary confinement?
Right.
These people just, come on.
Even though, and let me tell you, even though the ACLU had put out a statement in 2012 that said don't put children in solitary confinement, even though the United Nations had put out a statement in 2011 saying don't put children in solitary confinement, even though there was a DCS policy that said you cannot punish a child with segregation and solitary confinement, even though all those things were already there, the court said that it was not clearly established that you could not put a child in solitary confinement. Now, people who do federal law is going to understand how detrimental that was to our case. But finally, in Sixth Circuit case, we have a law that says you cannot put children in solitary confinement. So now they're after me the third time. And so now this time there are 5 judges that they are calling to testify because they're saying that I have impugned the judiciary and I have interfered with the administration of justice. And why is that? Because I've called them out on social media for ex parte orders, for blocking discovery. One of the judges, I called out, Judge Davies, I called out because of his lack of morality and several other things that he did for several years. So it's all about the judges. So I'm going to take those judges and I'm going to put them in video depositions and I'm going to ask them about their conflicts of interest, their violations of due process, their ex parte orders. And I'm going to have the opportunity now to put them on video and record what they say and confront them with these questions that the board and the judiciary want to ignore.
Video, is that video public? Is that a public video? Is that going to be?
Well, so I will make them public. I will share them publicly, and
please share them with me. Please share them.
Yes,
with be one of the people you share them with. I would love to be able to play those videos because I think that, like much like you said, the whole entire system is corrupt. I mean, you're not allowed to criticize a judge if they lie and help. Falsify a case, or if they do something that's illegal, you just can't criticize them. I mean, come on, really? Is that really the kind of operation we want running here in this country? I mean, those days I hope are long gone pretty soon, Connie. As more people wake up, they're not going to put up with these shenanigans from a judge or anybody. I mean, people are fed up with it. They really are.
Well, and keep in mind, judges are elected officials. So the people should know what's going on in the courtrooms and what goes on behind closed doors. I mean, Judge Davies even admitted in a continuing education class that the judges talked about the attorneys and the cases behind closed doors. We have Judge Michael Binkley in Williamson County went to a CLE, and he's talking to these attorneys about how bad this one attorney is and how he's going to report him because that attorney had turned him over to a news station for going on. It was all exposed that there were judges who were going on trips to Costa Rica with a defense attorney, that they were going on lake parties with attorneys and judges. I mean, you just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And let me tell you, there's a whole secret society called the Inns of Court, and they only let certain attorneys in only by invitation. And it's where once a month the attorneys and the judges sit around and yak it up, And so all of that needs to stop. My stomach was turned on that from the very beginning. And there's one person who has really spoken out. There is a professor named Tarkington who wrote a great article about, does an attorney give up their First Amendment rights when they take their law license? And I say absolutely not. And people need to know what is going on in these courtrooms.
Well, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the court system's corrupt, Connie. I'm shocked to hear that.
I bet you are.
I'm going to take a
not.
No, I'm not. I'm going to take a quick. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we come back on the other side. I'm going to bring up. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Heather Hobbs. She's an advocate. She's been on my show here before. Had a very disturbing interview with her on a topic last year. And I want to touch on that with you, and then we'll carry on. We can actually take some phone calls. We can open up the phone lines here in a few minutes. We'll open up the phone lines, folks. So if you want to, you okay with that, Connie? Can you stick around and take some calls? So if you want to call in to speak to Connie, 515-602-9732, 515-602-9732. Write that number down. Connie, before we go to break, why don't you go ahead and give out any websites? I tell you what, I have your websites. Actually, I have your stuff already up and ready to go. Right here, this is your law website, I'm assuming, yes?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
So it's 10familylaw.com, TENN familylaw.com. That is Connie's website there, and you can see she is the founding attorney. And also, we have her. Oh, that's not her Facebook page. That was mine. We also, I had your Facebook page up there, but someone sent me a message, so you can go check her out on Facebook. Connie Reguli, Reguli. Is there anything else you want to say, Connie, before we go to break, where you want to give people how to find out more about you?
Yeah, so it's really important. Right now, Facebook is one of our large platforms under the Family Forward Project, and you might want to pull that up so people can see it a little bit later. But it's a group, Family Forward Project. And
Okay.
also, I do have a page, Family Forward Project. I have a page, Family Forward Foundation is our nonprofit. We also have a website for Family Forward Foundation. And I have a lot of YouTube videos up that are just under my name, Connie Reguli. So you can go to my channel on Facebook and see probably 100 different videos.
Is that what you're talking about right there, Families Forward Project? Yes.
That's the page. So there's also a group. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
okay.
also a group.
Okay, so folks, if you just type that in right there, Family Forward Project on Facebook, you're going to be able to find out about Connie and everything she has going on there. And there's a website. There's website information here. Looks like there is an email here that you can email out. And folks, that's how we're going to win this, because it really is us against them. It's not us against us like they want us to think. It's not us against us. That's how they want us to. They want us to argue amongst ourselves. No, don't fall into it. It's us against them. It really is. And when I say them, it's the establishment. It's the people that these corporations that put themselves over on the top of us, basically lord over us. And to take our children, traffic them out, don't afford us due process in court. I mean, it's just a broken thing. It's just all broken. It's in many areas, Connie, as you well know. I'm going to take a quick break here, and we come back on the other side. We're going to talk about that interview I had with Heather Hobbs there briefly, and we'll carry on and perhaps open the phone lines here. Thanks so much for joining us here at criticaldisclosure.com. That's criticaldisclosure.com. or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. We'll be back after these brief commercial messages.
If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today.
Okay, folks, if you want to support this broadcast, you can do so by supporting our sponsors. PatriotPrepared.com, we have the finest, highest quality storable food products available there, water filtration products, and cooking stoves, all kinds of things. You can see what's going on here in Texas. This is not, not fear-mongering. It's just a matter of being prepared, for crying out loud. I mean, you have insurance on your house that it doesn't burn down. Why not have some food insurance? Right now, if you go to PatriotPrepared.com, you can save $250 on the large food purchases, large packages, and get free shipping. And check out all the other great products that we have there. And then all the purchases there help directly support this broadcast, and we do appreciate that. You can check us out again at criticaldisclosure.com or northwestlibertynews.com. We're delighted to be joined once again by our guest, Connie Reguli, attorney there in Tennessee. Let me take her off of mute. There we go. Connie, thanks so much for hanging on after the break. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so I interviewed Heather Hobbs here last year, I believe, and she told me, and I did a video. I was horrified. I was horrified by this. I believe she was out in Oregon at the time, where someone had called in the CPS there to get a pregnancy test. They came in and they said, "Well, yeah, you are pregnant, but since you didn't have the money for a pregnancy test, you probably don't have the money to support your family." So within 48 hours, there was an anonymous call to Child Protective Services. They came, and this is three different cases. They came in three different cases. They did the same thing. They came and took the person's children. Now the women were pregnant, and they said, "You can have your children back if you agree to have an abortion." True story. True story. Two of the women did have an abortion, never got their children back. The third one is trying to fight it right now. That's the type of stuff they're doing in Oregon. I'd like to get your comments on that.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, and I'm going to say I'm a conservative. I come by it honest. I was raised a conservative. I just have conservative blood going through me. We know Oregon is a liberal place. I belong to the American Bar Association because we do have a huge parent representation organization there. And the people in Oregon, the attorneys in Oregon, are extremely liberal. And so, this is a real quandary for me, the whole abortion versus family continuity. And I'm 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 disgusted. So, and I'll tell you, I believe it though. I will say, I knew a family in Kentucky that the woman had a disabled child who was 7 years old, and he was autistic, and she got pregnant with another child, and they took both of her children away when the baby was just months old, and then told her that if she would sign over her rights to her baby, she could have her disabled son back. I mean, yeah, so I totally believe that that kind of stuff happens. I'm just flabbergasted. It goes on and on and on and on. And I used to say, I've heard it all. I used to say, I've heard it all. But you know what? Never, never. And I don't know. I think they must have some secret conference call once a week where they go, hey, you ought to try this trick. And because it's like they just like spring up all over the country at the same time. Another huge one is the drug tests that are so illegal that they're doing, that they're unverified. There's all kinds of contaminants. They're not good tests, but they're using it to take children and keep children. So I don't know how they come up with these things, but yeah, that's horrible.
Three people on my show, three guests on my show that had got a hold of these drug tests and poured water through the drug testing kit, and it came back with cocaine and methamphetamine. I have other people on the show here who have, the day that they're advocates, the day that their advocate was supposed to get the drug test, they went to 4 other clinics and got drug tests that day. All 4 private clinics they went to, negative. The one that the CPS sent them to, positive. What I'm telling you, they will. What people maybe don't understand is we're saying there's billions and billions of dollars at stake, and there's a lot of palms getting greased. There's a lot of big, thick envelopes full of cash getting handed off or turning the other way. Folks, this is like run like a mafia. I don't know how else to put it, Connie.
Yeah, well, and I also want to say, when I was listening before the break about all of the things that we know are bad results of foster care, and I talked about prison and not being unemployed. Here's another huge one. You are more likely to have your own children taken from you and put in foster care if you have been a foster child yourself. I mean, and I gasp over this because I'm now been at this long enough. I'm seeing these young moms pop up who have children, and before you know it, CPS is knocking on their door. And here's what they put in their petition: has a history with CPS. They use has a history with CPS. They don't say whether it's a good history, a bad history, a finding, or dismissal. They just say they've had a history with CPS, and so therefore their children should be taken. And these judges, I mean, they have got a well, and let me tell you, there's money that goes to the court system too. There's money out of the child welfare system that flows into the courts. helps these judges hire people, youth service officers, the detention money. I mean, they're getting money too. So they're running their juvenile system as an organization, as a funding organization as well. So the whole thing has become so incestuous. And I want to talk to people about, a lot of people say, well, my attorney, I get a court appointed attorney and they won't do this and they won't do that. And so people need to understand this. You have this juvenile court system, and you have a judge who has a list of attorneys, and those attorneys they appoint on a rotating basis to serve as either parents' attorneys or guardian ad litem's, etc. And they just keep rotating through those. And the attorneys who do that, that is their primary source of income. Okay, so they're dependent on the judge to give them a job. Okay, so what's the payback? The payback is you make the judge's job easier, right? And so I say all the time, they hate to see me walk in the courtroom because they know they're going to have a 5-day trial. If they get a court-appointed attorney on there who's more interested in pleasing a judge than working for their client, they're going to get their client to plead out. This happens all the time. This happens in criminal court. I was at an indigent task force meeting, and we had a criminal court judge stand up in his presentation and his talk, and he said, I know this happens. I know that there are certain attorneys that I appoint to criminal court cases are more interested in making me happy and settling a case than setting a trial. So we cannot be blinded by that. This is an incestuous system. The judge does not need to be part of the appointment process for the guardian ad litem's and the attorneys.
Well, a couple points on what you just said. I believe the person, her name was Misty Lucas. I think she was 4th generation CPS. She was the 4th generation. I also had I don't remember the name of the parent that was on here, but I do have the proof somewhere in my files where what you say is correct. 25% of those funds, people don't understand. You ever wonder why the judge sends someone to anger management, but there's no history of anger? Or they send them to drug rehab, but there's no history of drug problems or anything? Because 25% of that money flows right back into the court system. And the third point you made, I had a buddy of mine that was facing 10 years in prison for I did an article on it. He got set up. At any rate, he had a public defender. Literally, the public defender had never even looked at his case, showed up and spent 5 minutes reviewing it like this, walked into the court right there to represent the guy. And he's like 10 years of his life. He's facing, time in prison. And he ended up going to prison. I mean, this is, Connie, it's right out there in the open,
Okay, yes. Yeah, so let me tell you this story out of northeastern Tennessee, which is a crossover between the criminal appointed attorney and the CPS. So a lot of medical kidnapping goes on. I mean, that's a whole show we would probably have to do separately, but this is a case of a small baby. It was medically kidnapped by DCS. They terminate the rights of the parents within like 3 or 4 months. I mean, they just like fast forward through it. They expedite it. The father gets charged criminally. Okay, are you ready? Are you sitting down? Listen to this. So he gets an attorney, and he has this attorney representing him criminally. And all kinds of things happen. The judge won't let the dad's experts in. There's certain evidence that they can't get, and he gets convicted. After the conviction, he cannot get a copy of the transcripts to do his post-trial motions or to do his appeal. And the mother, who I've stayed friends with and stayed in contact with, contacted me and told me, are you listening to this? The attorney defender of her husband got her child, adopted her child. And they didn't even disclose to the judge that there might be a possible conflict of interest, that the defense attorney in the criminal case secretly got this dad's child and adopted that child and posted his picture on Facebook. And it's so obvious it's the same child. It's a little tow-headed blonde child. And I'm sitting here watching that, and I'm like, God, I just cannot even believe this happens.
We've got, it makes you wonder, Connie, when this Child Protective Services, they literally set up in the hospitals in the lower areas of the hospitals. I mean, if you walk into a hospital, folks, in most hospitals, larger hospitals, and go to the front desk and say, yeah, can you direct me to the Child Protective Services office or whatever they call it? They'll direct you right to where they're at. So they can spring upstairs in a moment's notice and take these children literally out of parents' arms. I've had parents who have their arms broken by them ripping the children out of their arms while they're in the hospital. Not kidding. Saw the proof. Connie, I mean,
Yeah. And I was involved in a case very similar to that. This has been 3 or 4 years ago. I was on Facebook. One of our moms who was following us, who had lost some children previously to DCS, she posted a picture of her brand new baby, just born. And she said, oh, my wonderful baby, la, la. I'm watching. Within 24 hours, she posted another picture. And she said, the nurse came in and told me that I could not be alone with my baby. And they've called CPS. And I called the nurse's station. I said, what hospital are you in? And so I called the nurse's station and I said, what is going on? And they wouldn't tell me. And they made some lame excuse that they couldn't disclose any medical information because of HIPAA. And I said, well, the mother's right down the hall. Go down the hall and ask the mother if you can talk to me. They refused to do it. This was on like a Thursday, right before a holiday weekend. And they refused to give the mother a release of information to sign. And they're down the hallway from her. And then I said, you better not. And then they told the mom she was going to have to leave the hospital with the baby. And I called the nurse's station and I says, you better not keep that baby unless you have a court order. And let me tell you, on the 4th of July, they got some magistrate to sign an order just because I raised all that cane. And the whole thing in the order for keeping that child was that mother had a prior history with CPS and she never got that child back. And the child was clean. She was clean. Because she had a prior history.
It just makes my blood boil. I mean, yeah. I've had Mark and Terry Stamen on my program 15 times, maybe 10, 12 times. I don't know. And they had 7 of their children taken. I mean, folks, I know everybody wants to get active and be all involved in the Trump administration and MAGA and all these rallies and everything like that. We need to rally around these families and get these children that have been taken. Folks, put yourself in this position. I mean, I've had people on the show, Connie. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I've had people on my show that have on laundry day, they've had their laundry hanging outside on the line visibly where you could see it. CPS happens to show up. Yeah, there's no sheets on the bed. You're laying in. There's no bed sheets. There's no. It's like what they're out here on the line. Yeah, they're not on the bed. Well, I can't pick a day and wash my sheets. So if I don't wash them, then I'm getting marked down because I don't have clean sheets. But I go to clean them, I get marked down because they're not on the bed. This is a racket. This is nothing more than a racket. And you know what you say is, I'm telling you, there may be something to what you said. It almost seems like they get together because it doesn't matter if it's in Oregon, Oklahoma, New York, Montana, California, Nevada. It doesn't matter. The same process and the same trickery. They seem to all march to the same tune. Do you find that yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, just about the time I think I've heard it all, it's like they bring up something new. And I mean, it just makes my head spin. It truly makes my head spin. But, and I've heard several cases of that where maybe there's a medical kidnap allegation and on one child, and they go and they take all the children, and they love large families because think about it, and I kind of tell this jokingly, but, I used to be a prosecutor, and I said, when you were a prosecutor, people were just file folders on your desk, right? I mean, that's all they were, right? So you get these CPS cases and these CPS workers, and they have a certain number of file folders and they have a certain caseload, right? And so if you can get a family and take all 10 of their children or all 7 of their children, it's a whole lot less work, right? Because you don't have so many cases you have to follow up on. The other thing, like noticeably in Tennessee, there was a big report that came out, an audit report came out in December, and it showed in the audit report that their staff was not trained. It showed that they were not closing their cases when they should. It showed that their foster enrollment was higher. and it showed that children were staying longer in foster care. So that means they're either not rehabilitating these families like they should, or they sabotage families a lot. So, or they're sabotaging families so that they can keep their children longer, and then they can terminate their parental rights and basically sell them off. And, I'm on them all the time. I mean, when I'm in a case, I am like white on rice, they say, because it's like I complain if the children are calling the foster parent mommy and daddy. I'm like, no, they're not going to call him mommy and daddy, right? I'm like, I make him give me policies. I do open records requests for training. Oh my gosh, you should see some of the training that they've delivered to me, how ridiculous it is. But, you have to stay on top of them every minute. Now, when you talk about parents and educating, when I started my public group, the Family Forward Project on Facebook, it was in 2015, I think, because what I found before that, because remember, I have seen these problems since 2009, 10, 8, 9, 10. And people did not want to speak out, and they didn't want their names out there because it was embarrassing, right? I mean, people are going to say, well, you must have done something to your children or they wouldn't be in foster care. And I just encourage these people. I'm like, you've got to speak out. So I was able to get a local news station to do some shows on the wrongful taking of these children. But people have got to speak out. And it's like, okay, I understand it. I get it. Even if you have a drug addiction but you understand that your children are more important than your addiction, go ahead and speak out, because there is help for you. When you look at the number of kids in foster care, we know that over 85% of those children are there under what's called neglect. It's so important that people understand this is not physical abuse and sexual abuse. 85% are neglect. And of that 85%, half of them are substance abuse related, which I always tell people can be everything from, smoking marijuana twice a month to heavy meth addiction, because there's like no discrimination, right? It's like if you're using an illegal drug, you're using an illegal drug. We don't care what it is, and we're going to take your kids. So there is a place for rehabilitation, to get more services for families, and we've got to take that more serious. So that's really our goal with the Family Forward Project. I had one case where I had a disabled couple. They were living in a trailer, and they had these 3 beautiful children. I mean, red hair, blue eyes. They were just gorgeous children. And they had managed to figure out how to live on their disability checks. And they had real physical disabilities, and they had survived on that. However, their trailer, the air conditioning went out, and there was a hole in the floor, and somebody had reported him to CPS. Well, they go and they take those 3 children, they put them in foster care. They pay the foster parent anywhere between $3,000 and $4,500 a month, tax-free money, give them free medical insurance, give them extra transportation if they need it, give them all these additional benefits, instead of going out and buying an air conditioner and for $400 and repairing a hole in the floor. And this is where I really want Family Forward Project to step up to the plate. And this is where I want our, people and churches and Rotary clubs, to contact me and say, you know what, we'll adopt a family. We'll take a family that you see where there's no physical or sexual abuse. If they have a need, if they need some respite care for their children, or if they need some short-term financial assistance, especially this year with COVID, to get them back on their feet, that we'll do that. And communities need to start stepping up and being involved. And, unfortunately, it's so sad, that we've lived in a society of, if it's not in my backyard, if it doesn't affect me, and we have got to stop doing that, because this is becoming so vicious. And I say to everybody, you are within 3 degrees of separation of a family that's been affected by CPS. So it may not be you, but it may be your hairdresser. It may be your kid's school teacher's cousin. Okay. It may be, your cousin in 3 states away who just got a divorce, and maybe there's domestic violence in the home. So it is reaching you. It is reaching every family. And then we're raising these children that have been raised in a foster care system. And those are the children who may be marrying your children in your perfect middle class household, right? So the society that we're creating has a twisted view of stability, and we're normalizing taking children out of your home. And I tell people, when I speak to people who aren't aware of this, I says, I want you to imagine you're sitting in your home one night about 7 o'clock and you hear a knock on the door, and you open the door and some stranger's there who says, you need to grab your pajamas because I'm taking you someplace else to spend the night. And then they haul you off 200 miles away and dump you off at some stranger's home. How would you feel as an adult? And just imagine how these children feel.
No, I know. I tell you, it's the toughest thing I've ever done. And I've been broadcasting for years, for 6-7 years now, I think, roughly, and done a lot of shows. The most difficult shows that I do by far, hands down, not even close, are the CPS shows. And some of them, I mean, there's a couple of them I had to actually break away from the interview because I was going to break down on air because it was crushing. It was crushing what they do to these families. Connie, we wanted to have you on because we know that you are being attacked. And before we open up the phone lines, I just want to make sure that we've sufficiently covered that part of it. And what can people do, I guess, to help, because that's the only way that we're going to defeat these evil scoundrels, is that we all stick together, because there's way more of us than there are of them. But see, the thing is they've managed to keep us in fighting with each other, and when we're fighting each other, we can't fight them too. So we need to all come together as a populace and then go after these scoundrels. That's my formula.
Yeah. And so one of the things in this circumstance, one of the things they have to consider is character and reputation. So if anybody, especially any of your viewers or listeners who have followed me, or I try to put out encouraging words, I've talked to a lot of people. If there is anything that I have done to touch your life in this situation, I'm just asking that you just contact me through Messenger on Facebook. And I'm going to be taking some video depositions and statements, declarations of people who say that there has been a positive impact on their life with the information that I've given them, or the encouragement, or setting up organizations. I've taken people to DC to learn how to lobby. I've appeared in different states. So if they will go ahead, I'm very easy to find on Facebook. There's only one Connie Reguli that I know of. So just send me a message and say that you'll take a stand and that you're willing to have a video deposition of saying that I've had a positive impact on your life or your situation.
So Reguli, I've been saying your name wrong. Sorry about that, Connie.
That's okay.
I'm sure it happens a lot. Okay, we're going to officially open the phone lines, folks. 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. And the rules of the phone line, I hate to have to say it, but you don't have to agree with myself or Connie. That's fine. Just don't be abusive in your language, in your disagreement or your language, and don't be vulgar. This is not a vulgar type show. Otherwise, call in at your leisure. And Connie, I imagine if we have parents that have questions, you don't mind fielding those calls if there are people out there that have CPS questions and that type of thing. Are you open to that?
Yeah, sure, as best I can. Yeah.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do here is we had a little bit of the problem with the phone yesterday. So let me bring up the area code finder here, and we'll pull up the I'll call people out by their state, because we have one person on the line already. So let me look this up here. I should know this because they called that same number called yesterday. I should know what city it's from, but I don't remember. So here we go. It's from Michigan. Okay, let's take a call from Michigan here. Michigan, you are on the line. Please state your first name.
How we doing, James? It's Tim.
Hey, Tim, you got through today. Yesterday we had problems with the phone, so
loving it.
It's working great.
I just wanted to say what an honor it is to know you, James, and what an honor it is to fight with you and Connie and all the rest of us doing the right things. I don't really have a question. I'm just in support of this because I'm under attack currently as we speak by my county, the county level and the city level. They barrage me with attack of personal slander. As you know, I had my children taken away. I had 6 CPS workers try to finalize a 15-year conspiracy to remove my children from 2007, and I've been fighting them tooth and nail, tongue in cheek, ever since 2007. And I'm also an advocate here in Michigan. Beautiful place called Traverse City, but it's full of crooked and corrupt people. When I realized that methamphetamine was placed into my drug test, Connie, I went to the police station, and on 3 different occasions, the police department told me that it was procedural error to place methamphetamine into my drug test, my oral drug test, for the purpose of premeditated kidnapping. Since I did that, I started several groups on Facebook. I'm also the state director for United Parents for Children in the state of Michigan, as well as I'm the director for GT Cop Watch here in Grand Traverse County. And I'm trying to do the same thing that you are. I'm trying to gather my people here so that we can take the fight as a whole, because they're not going to listen to us as just one single person. They look at one single person as like, well, you know, there's all of us against you. What are you going to do? Well, I'm here to say that there's all of us, so bring it on.
You know, Connie, Tim, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we had visual proof, and I had Tim on the show, and we had visual proof of them spiking his urine with methamphetamines. Am I remembering that correctly, Tim? Didn't we have visual proof of that?
Yeah, James, I provided the local law enforcement with over 200 pictures of the. Am I okay to say their names or no?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
My mom's not here. Go ahead.
The people that were involved in my case, the one that placed methamphetamine into my oral drug screen, it was an oral drug screen, not a urine screen. So it was an oral swab. I took a video of them and broke down the video individually and was able to produce 120 something pictures to the county sheriff's department and the city police, which they told me that that doing so, having CPS put a controlled substance into my drug screen, was a procedural error. However, after those instances, I went back and looked up the MSLs, the state statutes on it, and there's a whole laundry list of felonies and misdemeanors, and a 15-year conspiracy. That's a hard one to investigate because there's so much information, and so I'm trying. I just finalized the petition. I think I sent that to you, James, on your cell phone. Are you able to read that?
Send it to me today?
Yeah, I just sent it to you a little while ago, just about an hour or two.
Oh, ago. I don't have Facebook on my phone. You have to send it to my email. I don't put Facebook on this phone. I don't have Facebook on my phone because of the
So I do have a petition
issues.
on my Facebook page to the Attorney General, Dana Netzel, in regards to major changes in legislation, as well as criminal investigation into certain people here in Michigan pertaining to that. And since then, since my case closed and I beat them, I found out that the AVER Health, the AVER systems, they're contracted through Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Their accuracy is 40%. 40%. I did uncover a chain of emails it originated from the original judge that came through on my case, and my case was the one that opened up the whole investigation into the AVER Health systems dirty drug screens, where they uncovered that the 2 instances that they had in Grand Traverse County, one was a mislabeling error by Child Protective Services, and the other one was tampered evidence, and the judge did absolutely nothing. It makes me sick.
Well, Tim, we got other callers coming in, brother. We need to. Sounds like we need to. Connie, do you want to comment? Go ahead, Connie.
I do. I have Tim. Thank you for what you're doing, and I want to say a couple things to you. First of all, I have worked going to different locations, different states, Washington, D.C. People have come. It is hard. A lot of people affected by the system don't have a lot of money, so they have to be, they're very cautious about trying to spend money to go to Washington or take a day off from work. One of the things I want you to think about is we need to establish some forums, some online forums where we can start having discussions with parents, either through Zoom meetings or something where we can start talking about these issues. And I'd be happy to do that with you. That's number one. Number two is AverHealth. Oh, my eyes lit up when you said that, because I have just gotten an expert report regarding AverHealth and about the fraudulent testing. So I would like to get some more information about what you have about AverHealth. One of the interesting legal concepts that I've been looking at lately is called constructive fraud. Constructive fraud is where systemically there is fraud perpetrated against the public interest. And so it's a concept that most people don't even think about. I happen to just stumble on it when I was looking up some other issues related to fraud, but this has been rolling around in my mind for a couple of weeks now about how we can use the concept of constructive fraud to address some of these people like AverHealth and their fraudulent drug systems, maybe even the CPS organization. But I would like to get whatever you have on AverHealth, because I'm real interested.
Well, I can text each one of you each other's contact information,
okay,
if you'd like after the show, and
Yeah,
you guys
Connie,
can
absolutely look it up, and then and you know, I have groups on Facebook. Like I said, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Tim Daniels. I'll connect with anybody that's in this fight. Anybody. I don't care what state they're in, what city they're in. I'm your guy. Let's do this.
Thank you,
Tim. Thanks so much for all the work that you do, man. And we probably need to connect up again. I was going to say we need to connect up again probably and have another broadcast to have an update, because I know you've done a lot since we've talked last. A lot's happened, so I think it'd be a good idea to update that. If you're open to do that, well, I'll reach out to you here after, maybe even this weekend. I'll start scheduling you maybe for next week. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I just okay. Here. There we go. All right. Yeah. I encourage everybody to connect with other families. One of the groups I just started on Facebook recently is CPS Response Team. Look me up and I'll give you more details on that. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate everything you do, brother. Love you, man.
You too, Tim. Thanks, man. Be good. That's what we need, Connie, right there. We need people like Tim. He's just one man. But if somebody else in another county gets together, that's two. And then another county gets together, that's three. And then their friends together could be hundreds. And that's what we need. I mean, we remember from that movie Ants. I brought that up, I think, yesterday before, with the grasshopper saying, hey, if these ants figure out that they got us numbered, our way of doing things is over. I mean, and they've kept us in that. That's such a very good analogy of what they've done to us. They don't like this right here. People talking, people opening.
Yeah, and and that's exactly why they're coming after me so hard, because of the social media and stuff that I put out there. Judge Sharon Guffey in Williamson County wrote a letter to the disciplinary board and the licensing board, basically saying that if I was going to chase conspiracy theories, I needed to do it as a private citizen and not as a member of the bar. That's the kickback that we get. They have secret courtrooms, they have secret meetings, they file secret reports, and we have to bust that wide open, because then you're going to see the truth, and they don't want the truth out there.
No, light always. What happens when you go into a room, folks, that's all dark? When you turn the light on, the darkness flees. The darkness flees the light. Darkness does not like the light, that's for sure. Okay, we got Virginia on the line. Virginia, you're live on the air. Please state your first name.
Thank you. Hi, this is Kimberly Lowe, Lowe. I'm the Director of Legislation for Global Family Alliance.
Hi.
I'm working on comprehensive legislation with Connie Reguli in order to create replicable legislation for each state in order to reform family courts and CPS. And I just wanted to state what a fighter Connie is. I've worked with her. We've met in DC together to work on legislation. She is one of the biggest fighters and is doing the most amazing work, and I'm so thankful for her. And I'm running for Congress in 2022. It's my goal to reallocate funds with the Adoption and Safe Family Act, which most of you know we spend $29 billion per year separating families instead of reuniting them to work on issues in generational poverty, housing issues, sustainability issues, substance abuse issues. And so it's my goal to change that at the federal level. But at the same time, we have people and legislators across the nation that are willing to introduce this legislation in 2022 to completely reform the family courts and CPS. I also wanted to note on March 6th, there's going to be a national rally at all the state capitals. You can get on Facebook, you can do a search for the March 6th rally. It's to bring awareness to family court and issues with CPS. And it's not until we have enough awareness that we can create the policy changes we need. So I highly recommend you do a search on Facebook, find the person who's organizing for your state, show up. The best thing that's going to happen is that you're going to come together with people. You're going to have a support group. You're going to have people show up to court for you. You're going to have other people that are going to have your back, and we're going to be able to create the changes we need by coming together. And thank you so much, Connie, for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, caller. I'd like to.
And I love Kimberly. I love her.
Well,
She's awesome, man. And I've drug her all over Washington, D.C., along with her children. And like, she has to keep up with me because she's awesome.
Connie.
Kimberly,
Connie is so high energy and so amazing.
Well, I'd like to be able to get, if I have with your permission, I'd like to be able to get your contact information through Connie and perhaps have you on the show if you're running for office in 2022. We'd like to have you on the show and have you discuss your platform and the plans that you have, if that's okay.
And you can learn more about me at www.kimberlylowe.com and make sure that everyone tries to find a rally in their state. And thank you guys for hosting, Connie. And I'll let the next caller on. Thank you all so much.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Yeah, great, Connie. Thanks. If you could, I'll after the show, if you can send me the information, I'd like to have that young lady on the show. Kimberly, you said, right? Kimberly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Great, good stuff. Okay, we have another caller calling, a couple more callers calling in here. Let's get the proper area code here so I can name it. It's Oklahoma, the great state of Oklahoma, where the wind goes whipping across the plains. Is that how it goes? I don't know. All right, Oklahoma, you're live on the air. Please state your first name.
I'm just going to go by, I'm just a mom.
Okay, Mom. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
I just heard Kimberly Lowe. She's one of my best friends, and she's helping me fight my case. I was a victim kin placement, and they removed my kids 2 weeks before adoption. And now my 2-year-old is hitting her head off walls, floors, regurgitating her food. She had surgery last year that had her tubes put in her ears, which that's justifiable. That can happen with anybody. And she had fluid around her heart and something wrong with her vulva. And I can't get any more information. I've fought. I've gone through the de novo process, and I just need to know what steps is next. This is how corrupt the judge is. My attorney got dismissed August 26th of 2020. The judge stated to come back the 28th of October to have my final trial. Straight out the gate of the judge, Lori, she was like, Lori, I'm sorry, but final stood as of March. Well, then why did you have me come back? And also they announced in the Zoom meeting that she had been picked by a family. So in April, she can be adopted. And I need to try to stop that. I had her for 18 and a half months, and her sibling and her are separated.
Connie, you have any answer for this young lady?
So I'm confused. Are you a mother or are you a relative of this child?
I was very good friends with the parents.
So
and they asked me to take
again,
them.
I'm only licensed in Tennessee, and I have to say that little disclaimer, but there are
Yes,
in
ma'am.
Tennessee, if somebody has filed an adoption, another person can intervene in that adoption. They don't like that, and they don't have to give you notice of when the adoption is filed, but you may want to think about filing an intervening petition for adoption on the child. So it's an option here. They give us a lot of grief about it. I've had the judges say yes and no, but I mean, basically it is the law that somebody can intervene in an adoption.
Caller, does that help?
Okay. Yeah, yes, it does. I've followed Connie along with Kim through DC. I'm the one that in Oklahoma City, I'm holding the rally on March 6th. And I have a website. I'm in the process of becoming an advocate, and it's called I'm Just a Mom. We're just sharing media and stories and everything just to get the awareness about how corrupt our system really is.
Well, go ahead and give out your website. It's I'mJustAMom.com. Is that what you said? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's I'mJustAMom.com, and you can find Kimberly Lowe's link on there too, and some other advocates. And we also have a group on Facebook. It's I'm Just a Mom.
Okay, I'mJustAMom.com. That sounds easy. That sounds like a good website.
And then we have yes, sir. And we have a group called Aedan, AEDAN, Montana and Scotland's Journey.
Okay.
And that's the other group. So if anybody would like to join or whatever, but yeah. So thank you, Connie.
Well, keep up the fight, caller. We appreciate you calling in. Thanks so very much.
All right.
Connie, there's, before we go to our next caller here, I just want to reiterate to the folks, if this is not going on in your town, it's going on in the town next to you, or the town behind you, or the town to the east of you, or believe me, every county, certainly, most cities, but every county certainly has these rings and these networks where they that's the currency that these establishment people deal in, folks, is children. I mean, I hate to even have to say that in America in 2021. But, Connie, I wish I was wrong, dear. I really do. I wish I was wrong.
And I'll tell you, I'm in a fairly metropolitan area. I live in Williamson County, which is just south of Nashville. So we're fairly metropolitan, which still things happen here. But they love rural counties. They love to go out into rural counties where probably the average years of education may be lower, or maybe the average income is lower. And out of Tennessee's 95 counties, I have worked in at least half of them, if not 2/3 of them, where I go tromping out to those counties and I start, trying to expose things and work with people. So that's why I was saying, like I was saying with Tim, we need to start getting our forums online and start, inviting people into just forums, where they can say, here's, and just make them, private or public or whatever we need to do, or record them. And I'm certainly willing to do that. I mean, I'm a really hardworking attorney. I have discovered, though, and I've decided I can't win this battle one case at a time. So I'm reorganizing my life. I really kind of started with COVID because there were so many changes going on anyway. So I have worked really hard to just kind of reorganize my office and my expenses and try to get those expenses down so that we can function on more a family policy program. And that's where I'm headed. So people need to watch out for that as well. I also have a full advocacy program outlined. I know in the state of Iowa, I have discovered that they have a parent peer program. I don't know how successful it is, but I think that's something. I pulled all their documentation and I'm reviewing it to kind of duplicate some of the things that they've done there on a nationwide basis. So people, we need to be, one of the things about family law, and this is just a little legal education for people. So we have what's called common law, and then we have what's called statutory law. So common laws, if you think back to England, which is where basically our law comes out of, is common law derives from things that are just, I'm going to try say common sense kind of things. So if somebody steals your cow, that's considered a common law conversion. If somebody, runs over you with your buggy back in the old days, that would be considered a common law personal injury. But family law, this is so important that people understand this. Family law is entirely statutory. So that means that everything is in derogation of common law. It must be strictly followed. But what it also means is that you have, over the course of the last 100 years, you have laws that have been built layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And a lot of times those laws don't even match. So one of the things that I hope to do is as I transform into a broader family advocate, where I really help educate state legislators, because they don't understand this either. And I've seen some of the laws passed by our state legislatures, and I'm going to tell you about one from Tennessee, but they just do not understand the constitutionality issues. They don't understand the general impact across the board. So let me tell you a couple things in Tennessee, and I'll shut up so you can get another caller on. But last year they passed in Tennessee a bill that says that if there is an open CPS investigation on you and you change your child's school enrollment, that it's a crime. It's criminal. You can go to jail for it. Now, that's not a finding against you. That's not even probable cause. So it can be an anonymous call on you, and that saying that your house is dirty. And, and honestly, in rural Tennessee, calling CPS is a sport. I mean, people do it because they're mad at their neighbor, right? And it's all anonymous, so they don't have to tell who they are. People freak out when they find out that CPS has appeared at school to interview their child, which is also a Fourth Amendment violation, and they pull their kids out of school and they homeschool them. That is now a crime. And that passed both Tennessee houses unanimously. And is there not a due process issue here? So this year I'm watching some of the legislation that's coming out, and one of them says that if a child is in detention, that they are going to be required by law to provide free phone calls to the juvenile's parents. You have to hit yourself in your head and you have to say, do we really need a law for that? Are we in such a dire state of existence of humans that we've not allowed juveniles to call their parents when they're incarcerated? I mean, that's where we are. We have to create a law for that. So the whole statutory scheme is just ridiculous. It's just like she's talking about with adoption. They go and they terminate parental rights. And when they have an adoption and go file an adoption petition for foster parents, that should be open to any person who has a relationship with that child. And in particular, grandparents, close family, friends, anybody who's willing to maintain some continuity in that child's life genealogically, because they say the sins of the fathers last 9 generations. I mean, we are creating generational genocide.
Indeed, well put. We have another caller here, I think, from Alabama. We're going to bring on the line here in a minute. If you want to call into the show, 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. We're talking to Connie Reguli, attorney and family advocate out of Tennessee. So if you have family court questions, as she stated, she only is licensed to practice in Tennessee. But as we talked about earlier, this program runs the same almost in every state. So probably can't maybe do exactly what she would do in Tennessee, but probably pretty darn close, I would bet. Okay, let's bring on Alabama. Alabama, you are live on the air. Please state your first name.
Terry. This is Terry LaPointe.
Hey, Terry. How's it going?
Hi, Connie.
Hey.
I'm really thankful that you're doing this show. Connie is a hero in my estimation. She has helped so many people, and her heart is so genuine. She has a pure heart to want to help people and to do the right thing. She doesn't do what's most expedient for someone in her profession, but she does the right thing. She has integrity, and that can't be bought.
Well, we enjoy Connie very much. I agree with all those things you just said, and that's why we're so delighted to have her on the broadcast. We see the same things in Connie. Connie, do you care to? I know it's hard to follow up with that, but do you have any comments on our friend Terry, who's been a guest on my show a couple times? I think 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I love Terry, and I met Terry in the middle of a very difficult case that I was working on, and she jumped right in there, and she's covered a few cases that I've had that were medically related. I really miss her not covering medical kidnap stories. We've got to encourage her to get back in some form and do that because it's very complicated. She's done a very good job explaining those, and unfortunately, I continue to have medical kidnap cases all over the place. And when I do, I always try to bring up that Vanderbilt University Medical Center is receiving $4 million a year, each and every year, from the Department of Children's Services. And so they have a conflict of interest, and they should not be sitting in the courtroom testifying as an expert witness in behalf of the department when they have a financial interest in it. And that's another thing that we need to expose. And thank you, Terry, and I miss you.
I miss you too. I'm going to school right now, and I've just started working with some guardianship cases, and with the senior citizens, they are so closely related. The things that happen in probate courts with our senior citizens are so similar to the way that they treat the children. So, it's disgusting to see the injustice.
We've had Lisa Bellinger on the program a couple of times, and she's a strong advocate for probate court. And and here's the thing, folks, you have to understand. They take the children for different reasons than they go after the retirees or the seniors, because the seniors have accumulated wealth over their whole life and they're a target. And if they don't have good advocates, they'll drain that entire bank account and leave this person that works they'll leave them broke and penniless and dying alone. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it like it is. I wish I was wrong about these things, ladies. You know I do, but I'm not, sadly.
All right. Thank you for covering this show. I'll let you get back to other callers.
Thanks so much, Terry. Appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, Taylor Point did great work on medical kidnapping stuff. I think she was the editor of that fine website, medicalkidnap.com, I believe it is. Did great work over there, and we do appreciate everybody. Very thankful for everybody that's trying to advocate for children and stop this madness. We have New Jersey on the line. Let's bring New Jersey in. New Jersey, thanks so much for calling today. Please state your first name. New Jersey? Maybe, is it not New Jersey? It says Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey, are you there? Your phone on mute, perhaps? Okay. Well, Camden, New Jersey didn't pick up the phone there, Connie. But if you want to call in, we're still, the line is open. 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. Now, Connie, there's some, I got an email, I got a message here. I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, where it was someone that was on the inside there in Helena, which is the capital here of Montana, stated that the Child Protective Services, they just got a new director from Kentucky, and I haven't really written a full article about them yet because Kentucky is one of the worst CPS states in the union, hands down, bar none. No doubt about it. And they were watching my videos. There was someone sent me a message and said the CPS is watching your videos, Jim, and they're not happy. They're going after, they're targeting the legislators that came on my show apparently and talked about Child Protective Services and how it needed to be reined in and how it needed to be, how it needed to be really, I say taken down, but definitely restructured, if you will. And now apparently they're going to be targeting these legislators. I don't know what that means, but again, this is like a criminal. When I say criminal mafia with enforcement, the enforcement arm, with the intimidation arm, with the, I mean, I'm telling you, it's like a mob. It's like a mob like you'd see on TV, Connie. Am I exaggerating?
Yeah. And let me tell you, they stalk me on Facebook too. And I'm going to give you an example because once in a while I test it just to see, what kind of reaction I'm going to get. So I was in court on a Friday one day and I had a motion pending, and the department, the highest attorney in the department, Doug Diamond, who I've dealt with several times in the past at different levels, he had filed a response to my motion. He didn't even show up for court. We were on the docket call and the judge says, well, Miss Reguli, I have read the department's response and I'm going to deny your motion. And I'm like standing there looking, and I knew it was bad law. I knew it was law that had been overturned. So that afternoon, I posted on my Facebook group, which is 14,000 people, and I said, Doug Diamond should be the smartest attorney in the Department of Children's Services, and he didn't let the court know that such and such law had been overturned in 2014 or whatever year it was. On Monday morning, I got a phone call from Doug Diamond and said, Connie, somebody came into my office on Friday afternoon and said I needed to check out your Facebook. So, and I know now he's probably mad at me because I mentioned his name on air, and, you know, now he's going to be all mad. But, you know, I'm like, y'all are just who you are, and we're not going to be in the secret and in the darkness anymore. I mean, I am, you know, they need to be called out by name. I'm not crazy about our commissioner, Jennifer Nichols. I think she's not doing a good job. I mean, we had a case in last June where there were 2 children who were adopted out of foster care in East Tennessee that were found buried in the yard. And the way they were found was because the same home also had 1 or 2 other foster children still in the home. And one of the foster children was walking down the street, and somebody picked up the child and they reported the home. And when CPS and the police went there to look at the home, there was a child in a cage. Okay, a child in a cage. And so it was a big news story. It was June the 29th last year. You can look it up if you want to. And so they interviewed Jennifer Nichols with the Department of Children's Services, and her comment was, well, you know, once the children are adopted, we don't have any legal authority over these adoptive parents. And so now this year, the chair of the committee has introduced a bill. And this is like, they just don't even think through. They just don't even think this through, because I'm so frustrated. And I go to these people all the time and I say, just ask me some questions and I'll tell you how to help make this work. She put a bill in there that said that if you adopt a child and you receive any state or federal money, that you have to file a report every year on the education and the health of the children. Well, that's just baloney. It's not going to happen because, first of all, the state has no control over the federal money, and people who adopt out of foster care continue to get federal money until that child is 18 years old. The state cannot control that. The state can't cut that off. And so secondly, what are you going to do if they don't do it? Are you going to go to these now adoptive homes and rip these children out of the homes because the parents didn't report on their educational status for the year? I mean, it just makes no sense. Instead of looking at this logically and saying somebody screwed up when they placed those children in an unfit adoptive home in the first place. What do we need to do? Y'all need to go back 10 steps and find out how this got screwed up from the very beginning and stop putting a Band-Aid on the madness.
People have no idea, folks. You have no idea how bad it is. It's very, very bad. The worst you can think of. I mean, the way that they treat these children. I mean, dogs get treated better at the Humane Society than some of these children do. And that's just the sad truth of things. Okay, New Jersey's calling back. New Jersey, please state your first name. You're live on the air.
Hi, this is Shari Angelastro. Hi, Connie.
Hi.
This is Yellow Vest TV. Hey, we're here to support you 100%. We are trying to highlight Connie as much as we possibly can and get you out everywhere. We just put you through the Fox Nation group. Let's see if this goes through, guys. Let's rock this. We will help out in New Jersey for whatever you need to get in place. Right now, what we're trying to do is figure out where that's at and how we can get some people together for that. And we would love to do this. And of course, we get Connie out all over the world for her. And she deserves that. And we love what she does for everyone. And also what we want to know is, can you talk a little bit about the FCC ghost witness? Okay. So how can you have a court without a witness? That's what I need to know.
Connie?
So help me with that. What do you, talk to me a little bit more. What are you thinking about?
What I'm thinking about is the whistleblowers law, and Trey Gowdy had brought it out. They had done the court with Trump, and what they had said was there was no witness, so therefore there should be no court. You literally need a body in court to be the witness. How can you cross-examine a ghost? You cannot cross-examine a ghost.
Well, thank you. And I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show or the first 20 or 30 minutes of the show, but Jim and I were talking about kind of where I'm headed right now. And, you know, I always say what man intended for evil, God intended for good. So I don't consider myself just an optimist, but I'm an advocate and I'm a gladiator and I'm an encourager. And I'm, always have to look at every situation and just ask God what to do. And so, they have, in this particular situation, they have 5 judges that they put on their list to testify against me. And so I have the right to cross-examine them and do discovery on them prior to the hearing. And so I'm going to do video depositions of the 5 judges. And I've already had sent in subpoenas to do that. And then I'm going to ask them these pointed questions. I'm going to ask them about the ex parte orders of unfiled petitions that were secretly done behind my client's back and how they expected those to be enforced. I'm going to ask them about the conflicts of interest that they have in cases where they ruled for the benefit of a party or a non-party witness where they failed to disclose those conflicts of interest. I'm going to ask, in one particular case, a judge is upset because I have been following him and tracking him for years, and I know about his conduct, and I know about it from several different cases where people have reached out to me, and he complained that I was just trying to impugn him on when I put down in an affidavit asking him to recuse himself. And so therefore, I'm going to ask him if those statements were true. And if they were true, that I had the duty and the obligation to my client to put those down on paper and ask for him not to rule in a case that I was sitting as an attorney on. I'm going to ask another judge, let's say, another judge complained that I had represented grandparents and I had talked to the parents, but that judge did not file the proper appointment orders and then backdated them and then hid the file from me and wouldn't let me see them. So I'm going to ask those judges those questions and put those on video, and then we'll share those so that people can see what happens with the judiciary. And this is why I always, I track what they do. Here's another example. In Hickman County, I represent a dad who there was not even a petition filed, and the clerk signed an ex parte order removing custody of his child. And I challenged that, and I said, the clerk doesn't have the authority to sign ex parte orders. So it's time that we sit down and just nitty gritty, just expose these things. And thank you so much. I love you so much. I love all your comments. And I know sometimes I get confused on your comments, but you know where my heart is. So, I'm with you all the way.
We've been together, I'm going to say, online for almost 4 years now, with you and Brian going back in the day and the whole crew. But we're all still here, and we are sticking together, guys. We really are, and our hearts are all with everyone out here. We're doing the best we can also in each state, any which way possibly we can, and we love that everybody is still on this and not giving up. All right, guys, I'm out. Thanks, Connie. Keep going, Connie. Don't give up.
Thanks, caller.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate you calling in. All right, good times. It's again, folks, you can do something. If it's nothing more than being a bad example to everybody else, you can do something. Because this is our children. I mean, before you know it, half the people are going to have their children in foster care. They're not even going to be brought up with their own natural biological families. And it still goes on right now. They're ramping it up now with the new administration. You don't think the Biden administration is going to step in and stop the madness, do you? Nah. Are you kidding me? That's a joke. Okay, another caller. Go ahead.
And I do want to say something just really quick, James.
Sure,
we've had 3 callers on that, I've associated with, I've worked with. They're very dear to me. I have met some incredible, awesome people in working on this issue. People that have just become so close to that I would just tread 100 miles for them if I had to. And the ones that you've heard from today are in that class. There are people on the internet, especially through Facebook, who's tried to diss me and who have tried to make claims against against me, just stupid claims. And like, for instance, I have a picture taken back in 1994 where I was invited to a Democrat special event, and I went, right? Because I'm all about meeting all kinds of people. I always have been. And so there's a picture of me with Bill Clinton and Al Gore and, a couple other people, and everybody like starts passing that. And I posted that picture myself, and I said, oh, remember the days. And they started passing that picture around saying that I was a Democrat who helped pass ASFA to steal children in the first place, which is just so absolutely ridiculous. So the only thing I say is to people is, if you hear something that you question that maybe I have some ill-cited motives, just ask me, just send me a private message and ask me, because I'm going to tell you, I could have made a whole lot more money in this profession if I went along with it. Okay. I have given away so many hundreds of hours protecting families, trying to do civil rights cases. If you truly think that there's something that you've heard that you think is troubling to you, you just need to ask me. And I just ask you that as a personal favor.
Well, I've been called an awful lot of names, Connie, doing this, and I can assure you the one that would terrify me the most is to being called the Democrat. That's for sure. Okay, we got Pennsylvania on the line. Pennsylvania, thanks for calling in. You're live on the air. Please state your first name.
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, I just have a kind of a complicated question for Connie.
Go right ahead.
In the past, I had my grandson through kinship foster care. I had him for 6 months, and due to someone calling CYS, they removed him from my home, and he's in foster care now in another county. And recently I went for custody of him on my own. I hired an attorney. And in court, I was able to get my grandson every other weekend, and I had him 3 times. And now he has, CPS Independency Court had those visits stopped, saying that my son has to take a paternity test, which he still hasn't done. And they're trying to hold this against me, being like he's not his father, even though he signed the birth certificate and everything. And I want to see if it comes back that is not the father. They're saying I have no rights to him. Would that be true, or is that just something that they're trying to do?
Okay, so am I on? Okay, so there's two things that you need to look at, right? One of them is so again, this is Tennessee, and some of these things are very similar in the other states, but in Tennessee, a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, which is a putative father signing a birth certificate, is a legal father. Okay, so it is considered a legal father, a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, and you just need to look that up under the law in your state. So that is legal father unless they refute that. So it's almost like their obligation to get the DNA test and refute it. However, you can also ask the court. I don't know about your son. I don't know why he's hesitant to do that. You can ask the court for a show cause order on your son to have him do that and appear to have that DNA testing done. The other thing is that in Tennessee, as well as in many states, because this is a federal issue that has come up, there's what's called fictitious kin. So whether or not you are actually blood related, if there is a significant relationship or a substantial relationship, you should still be considered as kin, as fictitious kin. I started working in as a prosecutor in a metropolitan area, and I worked with a lot of African-American communities. And I have to say, it's when I first became very, very aware of fictitious kin, because in the African-American community, everybody is your auntie. And so I would go like, so how's she related to you? And they're like, oh, she's not related, but she's my auntie. So, there is what's considered in child welfare law and from a federal standpoint of fictitious kin. So you need to be, one of the best things about combating this system is being being very, very, very knowledgeable. And when they put a brick in your path, you need to get your boot out and kick that brick out of the way. And sometimes it requires asking a lot of questions. And when they put an obstacle in front of you, you need to say to them specifically, what does it take to overcome that obstacle? And how can we get around that? Because I want to move forward. But those are a couple things that you can try.
Caller, does that help? Does that help answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thanks so much for calling
Thank you,
in.
Connie.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, caller.
Bye.
Appreciate that. Bye now. Okay. There we go. Oh, caller, I didn't mean. I just canceled. There was a delay, and I just hung up the caller that was on the line. Caller, I apologize for that. There was a delay here when I clicked when I exited the last call. So please call back. I think you were from Tennessee. So Tennessee, go ahead and give us a call back. Sorry about that. Again, it was just a little delay here in the thing. We're getting a lot of great calls in here, Connie. That's for sure. Do you do a lot? And just as a side note, well, I think that's Tennessee calling in. It is. Let's take Tennessee's call here. Oh, it's not Tennessee. I'm sorry. Tennessee. Tennessee, you're on the line. Please go ahead and state your first name.
Wendy.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for calling. Sorry I hung you up there.
Hi.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just calling in to say hi to Connie. Let her know we support her and love her.
Okay, you got to move the phone closer because we can't hear you very well.
Oh, I said I just wanted to tell Connie that we're here and we love her and we support her, and I'm one of her favorite clients, right? And we got a long ways to go, but I just wanted you to know we love you, Connie, and I appreciate everything you do for all of us.
Thank you, Wendy. I will say, if anybody goes to my YouTube channel and starts scrolling down through my YouTubes, they will see a lot of videos with me and Wendy together, because like every time we were together, we just have to stop and we just have to start talking about it. And one of the reasons that they're trying to sanction me is because I called the court system donkey justice out in DeKalb County, and so they're saying that I interfered with the administration of their donkey justice.
Well, we could use another term besides donkey. Wendy, thanks so much for calling in. Did you have a specific question that you wanted to ask Connie?
Hey, Connie, will you call me later?
Yeah, and she can't make too many comments because she's my co-defendant under indictment so I can't let her say too much.
Okay.
Yeah, she has to. Yeah, but call me later. I do need to ask you a personal question because right now we're still dealing with them, so the fight continues.
Well, thanks, Wendy, for calling in. We appreciate that, and we'll send Connie a message to give you a ring after the show. No, I think she'll probably be able to take care of it. Thanks so much for calling in. Let's hope I don't cut the call over again. Okay. All right. I think this is Florida. It says Lakeland, but sometimes that's not always correct. Florida, you are live on the air. Please state your first name.
Hi, this is Deborah Lynn.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Connie.
Do you have a question for Connie?
I don't have a question. I actually am just calling because everything that I've been hearing her speak about, not just today, but over, the several years. I have had the pleasure of meeting Connie. I was quite inspired by another friend just to listen to her and all that she had to say. So actually, it was such a great pleasure because I actually have a case in the U.S. Supreme Court, and I had the honor to hand deliver just months ago. I had to hand deliver to the clerk of courts my writ of certiorari.
Yeah, and I want to say she was in Washington, D.C. because she was joining us in Washington, D.C. Right, dear?
Yes. And it was great because I got to have my voice be heard. The megaphone got handed to me, and I really walked right to the Capitol, touched the stairs, and we got to yell about, we had no fear. We had, I guess, many supporters Didn't matter what color we were. We all went in as God's children, and it was a wonderful, inspiring, uplifting words of encouragement. And I knew I was doing God's will and using His words, all through all her words, her acknowledgement, her inspiration. She has given us the tools God has provided her, and I am thankful and blessed to have her in my life.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to take a moment to talk about Washington, D.C., because we started going to Washington, D.C. in about 2015, I believe. And, you know, we've had groups, we've had larger groups and smaller groups. And I've been there with as many as a couple hundred, 200 or 300 people. I've also been there with 5 people. And once in a while, we will post that we're going to take a trip to Washington. Now, you know, I was in Washington March of 2020. The week they closed the Capitol. As a matter of fact, we had been walking the halls on March 10th and 11th. And then on March 12th, we were kind of chased out and we were told that they were closing the Capitol at 3:00. And indeed they did. They shut all the buildings down so that people understand what we do. There are 3 buildings for the House of Representatives because there's 493, I think, Congress people, and there are 100 senators. And so there are 3 Senate buildings and 3 Congress buildings. They're huge buildings. There's lots of people there. We would look up certain people on the committees and we just walk down the hall and we just go in their office. And, you know, sometimes we try to make appointments in advance, and sometimes we just walk in the door and we have little flyers we give them. And it's real important. I help people develop like a 2 or 3 minute spiel to talk about their situation and how important it was to them. And, you know, we have gone up with 5 people and we've just, just made our voices heard. And so we went in August and everything was closed down in August, but I was able to meet up with a couple people in August. In September, I went for the prayer rally. And at the prayer rally, we set up a little place in the grass and we put our flyers, and I have some posters and banners, and we put our banners in the grass and we got our megaphone and we just started to all the people walking by talking about how CPS was stealing children. And that was a great forum. And then I also have been up to the rallies in November and December, and I went up in January as well. So I'm really, really sad about the current situation in Washington, D.C., because they need to see our faces walking around up there. It is our capital. They are our buildings. Those are our representatives, and they need to be doing our work, not their own personal agenda and their personal work. And so I am really saddened about where we are, and we have got to get that, you know, Washington, D.C. needs to be reopened for the people. And, you know, there were some bad actors, but there were police there who should have gotten that under control immediately on January the 6th. And I hate to say that because I know that's a very hot topic and it's not really a CPS topic right now, but I have some very strong feelings about that. And Deborah is very, very special, and I'm so happy to meet her. And I have loved meeting people face to face. That's the other thing. We do a lot of social media, and we tweet and we Facebook and we post and we Telegram and we Parler. But, you know, sometimes you just need to meet each other face to face, give each other a hug and shake a hand. And that is an important part of what we're doing. And that's how we're building those relationships.
Good stuff.
It has definitely helped me. It has really built not just my case to save my grandchildren and all the grandchildren in America. You know, so it's really taught me not just to eat, it's to rise above. You know, I love the prayer that we have, you know, we've put out there together, you know, where 2 or more pray, you know, God hears our tears, He hears our cries, and He is delivering. Thank you, Connie, because I believe He's put you in the right place in all the right times. You have done God's will.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Connie, I don't know. It sounds to me, and I'm just going to throw it out there. You need to have your own show, perhaps. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, you've got a lot. The work that you've done is fantastic, and your name is impeccable, and you know you're somewhat legendary. I say that respectfully in the CPS realm. So
well, and I will say, James, that, you know, I would say Something comes up almost every day that I feel like I need to share. And it can be everything from like, we were talking about Montana. I mean, I just received an email of a whole bunch of proposed legislation in Montana. I've seen the proposed legislation in Iowa. I've gone through all of our Tennessee proposed legislation, and I really want people to start paying attention to what's going on in their states. So I will say, yes, I've got to do more in that regard, keeping in mind, I've been a slave to the court system, honestly, for the past many, many years. And that's why I'm saying I'm having to change my format and what I do so that I'm not quite a slave to that. I did do a show with Blog Talk Media. Probably in 2016, I started doing some interviews with families, and I really liked it. The problem is because, the court can tell me I can't leave. So if I'm in court, I was doing it on Monday evening. And if I'm in court on Monday and I'm in Clarksville, which is an hour away, and the court goes, well, we're going to go till this case is finished tonight, right? And it may be 7:00 at night. And so because of the way that I've been working, I've been unable to make some commitments in that regard, except maybe on the weekend. So I have done several lives, and I am looking at a way to make that more of a routine, regular basis. And as far as formatting and stuff, you could probably help me with that as well.
I was just going to say, if you need a hand getting all that set up, I can set you up with a program where you can launch live on your phone literally in 5 seconds and broadcast out to 8 or 10 different platforms simultaneously. Wow. So we can set you up with that. Well, folks, we probably got time for about one more phone call. We only got about 5 minutes left. If you want to be the last caller of the day, you can call in at 515-602-9732. That's 515-602-9732 for if you have a question for Connie Reguli, attorney and family advocate there in Tennessee. You know what I'm finding, believe it or not, there's such a dichotomy, it seems, with Tennessee, Connie, where I know I have some friends of mine that are prepping kind of people, and that's where they want to go. They want to go to Tennessee. Yet there's still, like, even though there's a larger prepping community and liberty-minded community going there, the CPS and kidnapping, it hasn't really waned at all. It hasn't slowed down. I mean, it just seemed like they both shouldn't be able to coexist in the same state like that. And I think the reason is, and I've said this on my show before, there's a lot of males in this world, Connie, but there's not too many men. If the men would stand up and be men, we could end this overnight. If men would stand up and do what they're supposed to and protect women and children and look out for the weak and disenfranchised, that's what men are supposed to do in this society. If they would do that, this would all go away like that. But we don't have enough men, Connie, sadly. Do you care to comment on that?
Well, and my education before I went to law school was in psychology and social psychology. And, I look at a lot of this as a much bigger problem because, as I said before, a lot of this strikes at rural communities. And what we've done in America is we have stripped rural communities of their identities. And one of the things that just hit me in the face one day that was so sad is I was out in a county, I can't remember, I think maybe it was Hickman County. And we were in court, and after court, they were like, well, we need to go over to the DCS office and have a meeting. And I'm like, okay, where is it? And they gave me an address and I went over there. And that DCS meeting was in a historic shoe factory. So they had converted a shoe factory to a DCS office. And I just thought that was just like, to me and my brain, the way my brain works, that is like the quintessential problem with some of the things that we've done to rural America. We've taken away their factories, we've taken away their communities, and we've replaced it with these bureaucratic pseudo parents. And honestly, in some of these small counties, being a DCS worker is a good job, right? Because you have steady pay, you have great benefits, they can't really fire you. So, we have created this, and this bureaucratic machine that is operating this is horrible. It's just horrible. So, and then they will call upon law enforcement to help them, and law enforcement helps them. I was on Wendy, who was on the call just a minute ago. We were out in DeKalb County and we went to a meeting in the CPS office. They were so furious that we wanted to record the meeting that they called the police in to stand behind us through the whole meeting, just to be threatening and intimidating to us. So, we've ruined our communities, we've ruined our families. We've got to step up with a big kick in the Heine to all of this and really take a stand.
Well, caller, I know you called in, caller. There's one caller there. It looks like they called in from Oregon. We're not going to be able to take the call. We're just out of time here. We've only got about a minute and a half left, and I want to give Connie ample opportunity to give out any websites that she has. And once again, we can direct people to her fine work. I'll bring up her Facebook page here again, if I can find it. Connie, why don't you go ahead and give out your website if you can for us, please?
Sure. So there's a couple things for people to know. I do have a law office, and I do have a lot of presence on Facebook. So the Family Forward Project that you see on the screen now is a page. So you can go to that page, but we also have the Family Forward Project group. I am personally very easy to find on Facebook because my name, Connie Reguli, there's really only one. And then we have the Family Forward Foundation website. I have the 10 Family Law website, which is my law practice website. And then if you just want to be educated, go to YouTube and go to the Connie Reguli channel. And when you go to that channel, whenever I post a video, I do put in there, join us at Family Forward Projects. And a lot of time I'll put that link as well. I do try to appear on a few programs here and there. I am going to be Saturday night. I'm going to be on a radio program as well. I will post those on my website, or not on my website, but I will post those on my Facebook page. I'll post them on the Family Forward Project group.
90 seconds.
And I'll post them on the Family Forward page. So please just watch, participate, learn, grow, be part of the advocate system.
You can hear our Blog Talk gal just said we had 90 seconds, so you know we're running out of time. If you've been on Blog Talk before, you're familiar with that. So, folks, we are just out of time here. We want to thank Connie Reguli so much for all of her great work and for taking time out of her busy schedule to be here today. Connie, I can't tell you, I admire what you do, and so thankful for you.
60 seconds.
And please feel free to come on the show anytime you like. Thanks so much, Connie.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
You're welcome. God bless you. Okay, folks, there goes one of the real true heroes of this whole movement here is Connie Reguli. We are just out of time. CriticalDisclosure.com, CriticalDisclosure.com, or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. We exist because of your support, so please support us. And we thank you so much for your time today. Till next time, this is James White for Critical Disclosure Radio saying bye now.
Ten seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.